What's new and trending for private school bus companies? We've got you covered. Welcome to another episode of The Route, School Bus Fleet's video and podcast series that keeps you in the know. I'm Amanda Huggett, your executive editor. Today we're going to dig into some survey results and then hear the fascinating story of School Bus Fleet's 2025 Contractor of the Year. This episode of The Route is sponsored by IC Bus. The next generation is here and is ahead of its class. Let's get rolling. Our first stop is to take a peek at the results of School Bus Fleet's 2025 Contractor Survey, where we tracked several trends. Let me share just a few with you. So the good news is that while the driver shortage is still being felt, its strain is far less significant than it has been in years past. This year, 73% of survey respondents reported mild to moderate levels of the driver shortage, but none said they were desperate, unlike last year. We did notice increased union memberships this year, with a jump from 17% to 29% of drivers being represented by a union. Now, one not so surprising trend was around new bus buying intent. Fewer contractors plan to buy new buses next year compared to the year before, and more are unsure of their purchase plans. This no doubt reflects the uncertainty around inflation, new tariffs, and federal funding. So we'll see how that continues to play out. We also saw increased technology adoption, with more fleets using parent apps, mobile data terminals, and predictive maintenance compared to 2024. However, fewer respondents this year said that they use video surveillance. Now, we also compiled a list of the largest contractor fleets in North America. Just like last year, the top 5 were First Student, National Express, STA, Beacon Mobility, and North America Central. You can find the full list of the top 15 contractors on our website, as well as the full survey report. Just check out the links below. Our next stop is with a very special guest that you'll meet soon. As you may know, every year we honor one school bus leader with the Contractor of the Year award. This year, we're thrilled to introduce you to Michael Brown, the founder of Michael's Transportation Service in California. Now, for this award, we look for someone who's a shining example of efficiency, safety, and knowledge. Someone who goes above and beyond, who's made remarkable contributions to the pupil transportation industry through their own business and with the industry associations. And this year's winner is all of that. He is such a positive light in his community and in the industry. He's a tireless advocate for those who don't always have a voice, and he's helped change many people's lives through his work. One of the many ways he's done this is through transitioning his employee from a family-owned business to an employee-owned one. And the reasons for this are really important. So let's get to meet him now and learn more about his story. Here are some key moments from our interview. Enjoy. Michael, congrats so much on winning our Contractor of the Year award. It was really inspiring to read your nomination.
Yes, I was just as surprised as you were.
Did you know you were nominated?
No, I didn't. My daughter, unbeknown to myself, submitted the application, and so I had no idea what she was doing.
Yeah.
And at first, I kind of reacted to it. What? But then thinking about the fact that she thought that much about her father as well, it's kind of humbling. Well, it's employee-owned is really the key.
Yeah.
And so it's a family-owned business, and we did that back in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
We decided that we would sell our business to our employees.
Yeah.
And so we did. Probably the most important decision that I've made since I've been in business. The reason I say that is because in our economy, we have what you call the have and the have-nots, and that gap is getting wider and wider. And there's a reason for it. And I believe it's because of the business structure of exclusion as far as ownership is concerned. We feel that as a business owner, that we are in a position to be able to serve your servant leadership. And so instead of you serving me as an employer, I'm here to serve my employees.
Yeah.
And this principle is, I learned this principle, at least I think I learned this principle from a biblical story about the disciples. And so my understanding of that particular passage was encouraged me to go ahead and sell my business to the employees as a servant leader. And it takes care of some other problems as well, is because most small businesses, they die with the owner.
Yeah.
40% of them. And so by giving your employees the opportunity to participate in the future growth of the company makes for a very healthy situation. And you get a greater commitment from the people that are working around you because they have a personal interest in the success of the company.
Yeah.
So this is something that we're very proud of, and we believe that this idea of employee ownership will start to close the gap between the have and the have-nots, restore economic justice to the marketplace, and restore hope in our democracy. And the reason I say this is because when it comes to democracy, we all have one vote, but when it comes to economics, it's in imbalance. And so I believe employee ownership can start to make inroads into correcting that condition in our economy.
Yeah. That's really incredible. What was the process like to sell to your employees? What did it take on your back end to get that set up, and what did it feel like?
Michael's Transportation Service structured the company to sell 99% of the company value in stock to its employees. The first step was to hire a third-party business evaluation and appraisal company to determine the value of the company.
Okay.
Once the value of the company is agreed upon by the business owner, the company is sold and transferred to a trust for the benefit of the employees in exchange for a 10-year promissory note in favor of the business owner. The note will be paid with the future profits of the company. It took me a little while to grasp that concept because I figured that future profits were mine. And so they play a twofold role when you sell the business to the employees and use the future profits to pay down the note. Took me a little while to get that, but this deferred payment option was the gift the owner gave the employees as a means to make the payments on the 10-year promissory note. The transaction reflects the best interests of both the owner and the employees. It's a win-win situation. Nobody loses, everybody wins. By the business owner restructuring the company to include the employees in the ownership of the company, it changes the way wealth is distributed. By restructuring our business, we create a strong foundation, a strong financial future for our employees. Employee ownership builds trust and a sense of belonging into the company's culture. The profits remain in the company in which the employee lives, making for a stronger local economy as well, because the profits remain in the community. It doesn't go someplace else. And so the company no longer defines itself by the assets and liabilities that appear on the balance sheet, but by the capacity to care for the employees, their families, and the community in which they live. And there's a lot of other things that go along with it. For instance, employee ownership grants the business the privilege of being escaping the corporate tax rate.
Okay.
The federal tax rate for ESOP is 0.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of business owners, if they knew that and they were thinking about what they're going to do with their business.
Yeah.
It's a very, very powerful tool. It's a great cessation plan. And that 40% of companies that normally will die with the owner has a greater chance of surviving. if they sold their company early to their employees.
Yeah.
And so I'm appreciative of that now, because I would not like to see my business go out of business because I'm not here.
Right.
And so I can look and see that our future is bright by making that transition early, that now I can enjoy the fruits of my labor while I live.
Yeah.
And so far we've been doing this for 12 years, and about 85% of the company now belongs to the employees. They are the shareholders of Michael's Transportation. And so there's some equity there, there's some justice there, and there's just a better way, I believe, of doing business here in America.
Yeah.
Employee ownership is the way to go.
I like it. How did it change the day-to-day operations and especially your leadership approach? Or maybe it didn't?
Well, at first, people come here with different backgrounds and experiences, and it usually takes them a while to realize that they're not where they were, that this is a whole different situation, that this is an employee-owned company, and the employee automatically becomes a shareholder simply by qualifying every year, by working at least 1,000 hours. As we pay down the note, the owner receives the cash, and the employees receive the equity in the company in the form of share values. And so, like I say, at this point, 85% of the company now belongs to the employees. And that's a good thing. And so being employee owned has a lot of value, especially attrition. When things go bad, economies, go awry, the chances of an employee owned company surviving is a lot greater than otherwise.
Yeah.
And so that's what we personally experience.
Yeah.
You get a better quality employee when they know that their future is wrapped up in the success of the company.
Yeah.
It just works.
Okay. So let's start at the beginning. Tell me your career
story.
Journey.
Well, I used to be an insurance man.
Oh, okay.
I worked for American National and also Allstate. I used to be in the Sears booth and, taking in auto insurance and life insurance and so forth. And me and a friend decided that we wanted to start a workshop in the North County for the developmentally disabled. And so we went to North Bay Regional Center here in Napa to talk to a counselor about doing it. And while I was waiting there in the hallway, standing next to this open door to an office, there was a counselor in there, but it wasn't a counselor that I was there to see. But she hit her desk and she said, "Shoot." And so it got my attention. I didn't say anything to her, but it just got my attention. But then a few seconds later, she said, "Shoot," she hit the desk again. So I stuck my head in the room and I looked at her, but I still didn't say anything because I'm not there to see her. But she said, "Shoot," the third time. I was just being funny. I says, "Is there anything I can help you with?" And she says, "Do you know anything about transportation?" And I says, "No, but I can learn." And so she hesitated for a minute. She said, "Well, I'm looking for somebody with some experience. But here, fill this form out." And it was very simple. One sheet, name, address, telephone number, and at the bottom, it asks, "What's the name of your company?" And I said, "I don't have a company, so what should I put down there?" And the counselor says, "Michael's Transportation." And so I did. Filled it out, gave it back to her. And she says, "I don't think anything will come of this, but thank you anyway." And so I gave her the application and I left. A couple of months later, I'm down in Palo Alto at school with Allstate for some training. And my wife calls me. She says, "You got the contract." I said, "What contract?" "Transporting the developmentally disabled for North Bay Regional Center."
Oh my God.
I said, "What?" I mean, I was just as surprised as you were. I knew nothing about transportation whatsoever. I'm in the insurance business. They gave me about 90 days to get up to speed, and now the rest is history. We were at 300 buses, and I didn't see where we needed one bus in Vallejo. But since then, we are in four locations: Sacramento, Stockton, Vallejo, San Lorenzo, and Watsonville.
Okay.
And still growing. We try to go where we're needed, and that is really the challenge.
So how did you, when you have those 90 days to get?
Yeah, they gave me about 90 days to get up to speed. I had no idea. And so I bought a bus because I needed a bus. And the gentleman I bought the bus from, he was giving school bus courses and told me I needed to take the school bus course if I was going to buy the school bus from him.
Okay.
So I would know what I was doing and so forth. And I says, okay. And so he let me into his class, and then he told me, he says, you could probably use 7 buses right now, school buses, in the city of Vallejo. I didn't even know what he was talking about. But I already had one, and so I took him up on it. I got approved as a vendor for Vallejo Unified School District, and they started calling me, and then, other schools would start to call, and other schools would start to call. And the next thing you know, we had a niche right here in the greater Bay Area, which we have even right now.
And did you grow up in this area?
Yeah, I was born in Vallejo.
Okay.
On the way to school to Sonoma State College.
Okay.
Graduated with a degree in psychology and came back home and have been here ever since. We started this business in 1986.
Okay.
One bus and a hope and a promise. And this is what it turned into. We were at the top pre-pandemic. We were right at 300 employees and about $21 million, and which is this, that's something that I never foresaw, And so, so it's been a real journey.
Yeah.
Because you have to grow, as your company grows, you have to grow with it,
Right.
And so there's a lot of lessons that we had to learn along the way.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what changes have you witnessed within the industry? How have things evolved since 1986?
Yeah. Well, a lot of things have happened. When I first got my school bus license, back then, if you had 0 exemptions, then you were cool. That meant you could drive the 5-speed. And if you didn't have 0 exemptions, you were considered a sissy. And so that was like a crowning jewel, to be able to drive the 5-speed, and they were conventionals back then. I don't know if there's very few conventionals out there now, but my whole fleet were conventionals when I first got started, and now they're all transit and electric buses. And so things have changed dramatically.
Right.
One of the big things that happened during COVID is that the Department of Ed decided to allow the instructors to do the classroom online. That had never been the case until the pandemic, and the department decided that that might be an important feature to have if we're going to continue to maintain and hold the school bus industry together. And so that also is very helpful to us, because now all of our classroom training is online. Our tech department have put all of that together. And so we have a very comprehensive training program here for commercial drivers, for A, for B, and school bus as well.
And you mentioned electric buses. About how much of your fleet is electric?
There's 5.
Okay.
We were 5 Bluebirds. We were the first private contractor to receive those electric buses through the state. We're the first private company to receive them, and we have 5 of them right now.
Okay.
And so the only issue that we have with them is the range. You know, the range is 100, 125 miles. Well, you get a bus load of kids, you go to Sacramento, and you can't get back. So that's a challenge that we have, is just the range. And then one of the things that we realize we need in our industry is that charging stations for big equipment. You know, you got them there for cars and trucks. I mean, you know, smaller vehicles, but we need them for buses.
Right.
We could utilize those electric buses a whole lot more if we had stations, you know, like we have for the automobiles. And so that's what I'm looking forward to happening. And that's something that I would be willing to partner. We have our own charging stations ourselves built. And so we know a little bit about the charging stations and how they work. We just don't know enough, you know, to build out the infrastructure here in California.
Now, Michael is pretty humble, but we're so happy to help tell his story because he's impacted so many lives and he's so deserving of this award. Again, you can read the full story about him on our website. Just check out the link in the description. That's it for today, but you can find more school bus headlines and hot topics on our website anytime. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel and connect with us on social media. And a big thank you to the sponsor of the route, IC Bus, proudly offering vehicles and solutions that are ahead of its class. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for riding with us.